Meet the people making made in China fashion force to be reckoned with. China's new rich have rushed to show off their wealth by spending on luxury status symbols, with the country now the world's second biggest market for designer goods. It has meant boom times for European brands like Prada, Louis Vuitton, and Chanel. Now, a small but growing group of taste makers say China's fashion landscape is changing. Homegrown designers and brands are ready to challenge their Western counterparts as a new generation of consumers seek out items that reflect their own culture, rather than just the European heritage and inclusivity that have been so popular to date. But the people making made in China cool. Hong Huang, the magazine editor. When Hong Huang decided in 2005 to devote her fashion magazine, I Look, to covering Chinese design, jaws dropped. Advertisers pulled out and people told her the move was suicidal. It was really hard, she says. They told me there's no such thing as Chinese design, but each month, Hong and her team managed to feature an up-and-coming Chinese designer with the hope of putting Chinese fashion on the map. It was a brave move in a country that has embraced Western luxury labels like no other, but Hong feels vindicated. By 2010, her team was fielding several telephone calls a week from readers interested in buying the products featured on the magazine's glossy pages. But with few shops willing stock lines by Chinese designers, Hong took the plunge and opened her own boutique in Beijing called Brand New China. It stocks designs by up to 50 Chinese designers and has seen sales increase by 60% a year. We didn't have any illusions about making a huge fortune from Chinese design, but it is a sustainable business. Sales have increased, she says, as consumers, already accustomed to Western luxury labels, seek out something different. Plus, an anti-corruption campaign that has seen sales fall at some Western designers' brands is also leading a change in appetite. But she cautions that it will be a while before we see a Chinese equivalent of Prada or Chanel. Young Chinese designers want instant fame, she says, and don't pay enough to the business side of the fashion world. They all want to be the next Karl Lagerfeld, says Huang, who has been described as China's answer to Anna Wintour and Oprah Winfrey. It will happen, but it will happen to a designer who is mature, who has commercially learned how to deal with international corporations and retailers. Chris Zhang, the designer. It's the morning after her show at Shanghai Fashion Week, and designer Chris Zhang is on the phone apologizing to her friends and clients who failed to get the front row seat. Featuring dozens of models sashaying down the catwalk in vibrant hues and striking headgear, it attracted huge crowds to the market in the city's hip Xintiandi district. The designer, originally from Taiwan, has been based in Shanghai for 7 years, and says she has developed a loyal cadre of customers who love, as she puts it, her happy, glamorous clothes. They've worn Chanel in the past, they've worn Prada, but now they want something individual and just more fun and beautiful, she says. From her studio, which, with its Dayglow colors and Chinese pop art sculptures, encapsulates her design philosophy. Zhang designs 4 women's wear collections a year under the Posia brand. Her biggest challenge, she says, is a lack of stores. She sells her clothes from her Shanghai studio and also travels to Hong Kong regularly for trunk shows. On our own, we don't have deep enough pockets, she says. Zhang, who previously worked as Prada's general manager for Taiwan, has also adopted a mentor role to the country's younger designers. She stared at a judge on My Style television show, China's equivalent to Project Runway. Right now, it's novelty for the world to look into what Chinese designers are doing, she says. It won't take one day to overturn the negative images of made in China that people had in the past, but I think it's coming along. Zhang, who takes her inspiration from anything from cartoons to China's ethnic minorities, says that it can be burdensome for local designers to get hung up on their Chinese ancestry and history and need to focus on global clothes for a global market. I think we have to focus on how to be good designers instead of good Chinese designers. Andrew Keith, the retailer. Andrew Keith runs luxury Hong Kong department store chain Asia's and Lane Crawford, Asia's answer to Selfridges. It sells clothing, shoes, and accessories from 500 international designers online and added 7 stores in Hong Kong, Beijing, and Shanghai. In October, clothes by Chinese designers were sold for the first time alongside the likes of Stella McCartney and Alexander McQueen at its newly opened Shanghai flagship store. It's a natural progression for us to work with design talent here, he says. What surprised people is the prominence that we are giving these designers. We are already reordering, so the demand for these designers has definitely hit. Depending on their Shanghai reception, the designers will see their clothes in other Lane Crawford stores and for sale internationally on the store's websites. For Helen Lee, one of the designers chosen, it's a massive opportunity. Her Shanghai boutique lies at basement level near a food court beneath West Nanjing Road, one of the city's swankiest shopping districts. One day she hopes her name will feature among the Gucci and Chanel boutiques above ground. We are proud of Made in China. I think our image is getting better, but I'm not sure deep inside how much people appreciate local brands, says Lee. Keith believes that if China is able to marry its manufacturing capability with commercial acumen and creativity of designers like Lee, it will become a fashion force to be reckoned with. We will see China referenced as a thought leader, as an innovator and a driver of trends. Pizza Hut boss who refused to force staff to work Thanksgiving says he's no hero. Shortly after, a manager at the Pizza Hut's franchise in Indiana announced that he was fired for refusing to open on Thanksgiving Day, the company is offering him his job back. Tony, 28, had worked for the chain for more than 10 years. When he refused to open on Thanksgiving Day this year and forced his employees to work, he says he was told to write a letter of resignation. Instead, he wrote in explaining why the store should remain closed. I said, why can't we be the company that stands up and says we care about your employees and you can have the day off? Roar Tony told CNN Athletes Wednesday. Thanksgiving and Christmas are the only 2 days that they are closed in the whole year, and they are the only 2 days that those people are guaranteed to have off to spend with her families. Roar Tony told the affiliate he refused to quit and detailed his frustration in the letter. I accept that the refusal to comply with this greedy, immoral request means the end of my tenure with this company, he wrote. I hope you realize that it is the people at the bottom of the totem pole that make your life possible. He was fired shortly after, he says. The local franchise told the affiliates the Roy Tony was not fired, but quit. Now, Pizza Hut's corporate office says the franchise made a serious error in judgment, one which we hope to help remedy. He sent CNN a statement. They said the store has agreed to hire him back. We fully respect an employee's right to not work on her holiday, which is why the vast majority of Pizza Huts in America close on Thanksgiving, the corporate office said in a statement. As a result, we strongly recommend that the local franchise reinstate the store manager, and they have agreed. We look forward to them welcoming Tony back to the team. But Raw Tony, who was managing some 15 people when he departed, said Thursday that he was not sure he wanted to return to the team. That's something I can't decide right away, he told CNN in a telephone interview as he prepared to celebrate Thanksgiving with his family. And without pizza, I'll start looking into stuff tomorrow. He said publicity about the story has spread. All my friends are telling me how cool it is and how proud they are. You are my hero and stuff you don't expect to hear, Raw Tony said. No, I'm just some guy who told his boss no and got burned. There are people who save lives. Four ways immigration reform still could happen or not. It's pretty clear the House of Representatives is not going to take up immigration reform this year. Even after President Barack Obama said he was willing to consider immigration legislation in pieces instead of one large bill, which House Speaker John Boehner has suggested, just a handful of workdays remain for the House this year. Obama's concession might open the door for the House to consider the issue next year, but it's going to take more than the president's backing, and more than his personal campaigning. Speaking to supporters in San Francisco Monday, Obama called on House Republicans to take up the bill already passed by the Senate. It's long past time to fix our broken immigration system, he said. With a growing Latino population, the National Republican Party understands it must embrace the immigration issue. Additionally, the Public Supporters Action, two polls released this month show an overwhelming majority of Americans, 63% in Public Religion Research Institute survey, and 57% in a Quinnipiac poll, support a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. But some factions within the Republican base are adamantly opposed to any legislation that includes a path to citizenship. This division creates a challenge for Republicans. Their answer, maybe later, GOP strategist Anna told CNN that the time is just not right, and that the legislation is not ripe and not ready. Here are some scenarios when the timing could be right. 1. When Obamacare works. As long as the Affordable Care Act is receiving negative headlines, immigration will be on the back burner. During a discussion last week on the House floor between Majority Leader Eric Cantor of Virginia and Minority Whip Steny Hoyer, D. Maryland, Cantor repeatedly pivoted away from the issue of immigration to Obamacare. What's going on with Obamacare right now? I don't think we ought to be engaging in those kinds of commitments when you can't deliver. Kennedy said about bringing up immigration. Hoyer responded, "We understand you'd like to talk about healthcare without talking about anything else. I get that." The GOP sees Obamacare as a winning issue politically. It's a major reason it won back the House in 2010. And the head of the Republican National Committee declared Republicans will run on Obamacare in 2014. Republicans are reticent to change the subject while they appear to be winning the message war. Second, the sweet spots. The House can bring up immigration legislation in 2014, but controversial topics are usually swept under the rug come election time. Navarro said that next year, particularly the summer, might be the night time. The sweet spot is to do it something so it's far enough from the election so it doesn't become a big issue, she said. In other words, don't upset the parts of the base that are anti-immigration, but appeal to the majority of Americans who support an overhaul of the immigration system. The former could be proved more tricky as Republicans have to take into consideration primary voters and the possibility of primary challenges. Some factions of the Republican Party are against any bill that includes a path to citizenship or legal residency for undocumented immigrants, which they see as amnesty. For instance, Heritage Action for America, a lobbying and campaign arm of the conservative Heritage Foundation think tank, worked to get Senate Republicans to vote against the immigration bill last spring. Immigration is not considered a top-tier issue, but Republicans do risk backlash. San Marco Rubio, Florida, said he regretted his vote on comprehensive immigration reform that includes a path to citizenship, and then passed in the Senate this year. He helped to draft the bill. Frank Sherry, executive director of America's Voice, a pro-immigration group involved in pushing legislation through the House, said the GOP leadership is considering the stances of immigration opponents. Bonner and company seem a bit more concerned with Tea Party types, more concerned with their conservative members who could face ouster, Sherry said. If the House waits long enough next year to bring up immigration, it will be too late for immigration to be an issue in the primaries and, perhaps more importantly, too late for challenges to jump in the race and make it an issue. 3. Feelings must be mended. Leslie Sanchez, a Republican strategist who has worked on immigration for nearly 2 decades, said it is a must-pass issue for the GOP to stay a relevant political party at the national level, but she said a hostile political environment is the biggest factor in prohibiting immigration legislation. The recent government shutdown was perhaps a low point during an already perilous time in Washington. The trust factor between the two parties plummeted. The shutdown was very toxic. Right now it's very difficult, said Navarro, the Republican strategist. I just think the lines of communication between the parties have really broken down, New Rennie said. 4. When Republican proponents outweigh opponents. Another problem inhibiting an immigration bill is lack of incentives for Republican lawmakers to stick their necks out. Republicans have not gotten to yes, Sherry said, and until they do, Bonner is reluctant to bring a bill to the floor. I don't think they will bring it up until they can get it passed, Navarro said, highlighting that Bonner is reluctant to bring a bill to the floor that will pass with mostly Democratic support. One immigration proposal similar to the Senate version has the support of 190 lawmakers, a handful of whom are Republicans. Jeff Denham, a Republican from an agricultural region of California, is one of the bill's co-sponsors. He said there are at least 6 more Republicans who support the bill but haven't come out publicly yet. But that's far short of a majority. To get more on board, a coalition of Bibles, business, and badges representing key constituencies is attempting to use its influence to pressure Republicans. It's going to take a great deal of momentum in districts from across the nation, Dam said. Now that Bonner said that there will be not bill this year, Republicans have little reason to put their name on legislation that could be politically disadvantageous. The biggest challenge of this bill is there is not a deadline, Dam said. That's part of the reason this continues to get pushed. Thanksgiving, Skim calories, savor traditional flavors. Many people can relate to the nostalgia of Thanksgiving. There's something so wonderful and comforting about having the same meal in the same home at the same table off the same plates year after year. If you are a die-hard sentimentalist, it is really challenging to have even the smallest disruption to the celebration. If, on the other hand, you are ready to make your Thanksgiving a little more contemporary and a little more modern, I have recommendations to honor your grandmother's Thanksgiving, but with a healthy twist. Keep the meal, keep the home, keep the plates, keep the massive Thanksgiving Day parade, football games and family gathering, but make some delicious shifts and you hardly miss a thing. Let's talk turkey. You really don't have to change how you roast your bird very much. Replace the butter with a combination of chicken or vegetable broth and olive oil, and you'll cut down on the saturated fat. Remove the skin and choose white meat over the thigh or wing, and you'll save over 150 calories right there. If you can avoid the gravy and go for a tablespoon of just, you'll continue to cut the fats and calories by 1/3. For those of you who like the numbers, 6 ounces of dark meat turkey with skin is 354 calories, while 6 ounces of white turkey breast meat is 176 calories. Clean the greens. Greenhouse casserole is a traditional dish that could really use a facelift. There is usually more sauce and crispy topping than green beans, and the serving typically has as many calories as a dessert. Swap the green bean casserole for some steamed or roasted green beans, topped with a little squeeze of lemon, a drizzle of vinegar, and a tiny sprinkle of coarse sea salt, and you will bring the calorie count from a whopping 240 to a mere 34. I'll remind you that you should load up on the vegetables. For munching, you should choose the crudities over the cheese and crackers before the meal. If the meal is not going to be for a while, have one small serving of cheese or nuts to curb the hunger, but be deliberate and exercise control with portioning. Eat the salad, roasted fruit, veggies, and grains, remembering that half of your plate should be vegetables, or, as I like to say, give those veggies the most real estate. Vegetables fill you up and have the most nutrition. You won't kick yourself for having an extra serving of Brussels sprouts. Upweigh 7 leafy sides to add to your Thanksgiving table. First, making nice with starchy vegetables. It isn't often that you get a simple baked sweets or white potato on your Thanksgiving buffet, but if you are fasting, or if you find them at your table, choose a baked potato over the sweet potato casserole, which averages 480 calories in 1 cup serving. If you have to choose between sweet potato casserole or mashed potatoes, go for the mashed 236 calories in a cup. It's less than half of what you'll find under the marshmallow topping. Your baked sweet potato averages 103 calories, and even with a spoonful of gravy or a little pat of butter, this choice will still be under 150 calories. Stuffing. Cornbread biscuits galore. You know yourself best is dressing what really makes Thanksgiving for you. Do you dream about grandma's sausage stuffing with when it is the 4th of July? If this is where you do plan to indulge, and you should look forward to indulgence today, keep your sausage stuffing down to 50% cup, because at 278 calories, you aren't getting much in the way of vitamins, minerals, or fiber. If you drop the sausage out of it, you save about 100 calories. So that could be one way of having your cake and eating it too. Try substituting the sausage in the recipe with mushrooms. If you are a cornbread lover, one piece typically has 173 calories. That's not so very different from a buttermilk biscuits, which average 150 calories. I recommend choosing only one of the carb-delicious choices that are in front of you. Don't go back 4 seconds and make each bite last. Even if the meal is not completely modern, your approach will be, and that counts big time. Sweet endings. Yes, it is better to have the pecan pie with a scoop of ice cream at 780 calories than to want it, not go for it, and eat every other dessert that's the table. A slice of pumpkin pie with a tablespoon of whipped cream is 348 calories. Add a piece of apple pie the same size as the pumpkin pie, and you're running another 411 calories. When it comes to desserts, choose the one that looks like it has the most fruit, the least crust, and have one satisfying piece. For example, go for the apple crisp at 227 calories instead of the apple pie. Remember to say yes to the host and have a cup of tea with dessert. It will help you to slow down, be in the moment, and savor your crumbs. Liquid calories. If you're used to always having a full glass of wine in front of you and drinking goes hand in hand with celebrating the Thanksgiving holiday, try to reframe your approach, as 5-ounce glass of wine is 125 calories. Have one with your meal or before your meal and stick to sparkling water the rest of the day. If you usually have 3 glasses of wine and instead only have one, you will save 250 calories. Well worth it, no? Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you are able to satisfy your sentimental and modern selves with a delicious and slimmed down version of the holiday.